You're watching Swimming World TV. I'm your host, Brent Rutemeller, and we had another opportunity to meet up with Mark Schubert, the national team head coach for United States Swimming. Thanks for joining us, Mark.
My pleasure.
Mark, you know, we're getting into a lot of competitions leading up to the Olympics, but it seems like the whole competition calendar is getting more and more crowded with very high-level performances. The World Cup going on in Europe right now. How do you look at that as far as a quadrennium going forward and some things in the past?
Well, I agree with you that the calendar is getting very crowded, and I think coaches and athletes need to make good decisions. There's going to be a lot of opportunities out there, prize money opportunity, competitive opportunities. We want to stress that they need to keep their eye on the prize, and the eye on the prize is the Olympics. I think any competition other than the Olympics needs to be a stepping stone towards the Olympics. As long as the coaches and athletes keep that in mind, I think they'll be in good shape.
Well, now these athletes are going to feel more and more pressure. I mean, here they are, a named athlete, maybe a gold medalist, and all of a sudden they're up on a meet that now has some ramifications financially, their sponsors. Is the pressure going to increase for them to perform at a high level on a more frequent basis?
You know, I really think most of the athletes' sponsors are going to sign those athletes due to their competitive excellence at an Olympics and a World Championship. And in swimming, as opposed to track and field, we're more used to peaking for major meets. With the swimsuit technology, however, they can swim at a pretty high level in training. So I think that's going to probably help the athletes out if they have pressure to go to these meets.
But you can't overlook the pressure they're going to put on themselves. I mean, you got the coach's pressure, but do you think this kind of opens the doorway to trying to encourage performance? You know, even open up the door for more abuse of drugs and things like that?
Well, I certainly hope that that's not the case. You know, in the swimming culture and the swimming society in the United States, obviously use of performance-enhancing drugs is very looked down upon, and we're one of the most tested sports. We're not like Major League Baseball where you have 1,200 athletes and only 66 tests. You know, our athletes sometimes are tested 3 times a week. So I think the athletes are very aware of that, and hopefully that's not going to open up the door to greater pressure.
Well, I would hope you're right on that, but I think just human nature lends itself. If they're up there going to race in a mid-season and they're in a heavy training, but there's 10 grand on the line, you know, the temptation may be there, and hopefully that won't happen. But let's lead on to a little thing about recently Marion Jones admitted to taking drugs, and as a result, they are going to go ahead and strip her of her medals. But if she were to go ahead and admit that after 8 years, because of the rule that is with the IOC that you can't go back further than 8 years to change the record books, what's your feelings on the limitations that are kind of narrow right now?
Well, I think it's very unfortunate for athletes that have lost out on medals that they have the 8-year rule. I think once you can prove the use of a performance-enhancing drug, then the results need to be changed. And I think that should be part of the humiliation for stooping to use those kind of substances.
So you would say that there should be a limitation of 8 years. It should go all the way back, which brings us to 1976.
I definitely don't think that there should be a limitation, and I think those athletes that deserve to be honored should be honored. You know, it's unfortunate that they can't be honored, at the moment, but they deserve to be honored.
If they do deserve to be honored, and do you rewrite the record books? Do you go ahead and re-award medals up? I mean, is there any thought on that?
Well, my thought is you do rewrite the record book. To me, somebody that's broken a record by cheating, they're a fraud. And I think that those records need to be changed, and I think those medals need to be re-rewarded.
So what actions need to be taken to have that changed and to right the records?
Well, I think, FINA needs to recognize the fact that there are athletes that need to be honored out there that haven't been honored yet. And, if there's proof, and in many cases there is definite proof, they need to change their view.
How do you keep the pressure up constantly? How does this not just kind of surface up and all of a sudden then it goes back under the doormat, then comes back up? How do we keep this in the forefront to have this be a permanent decision, a permanent philosophy?
Well, I think we need to keep talking about it. And, with the recent events with Marion Jones and now with Barry Bonds, I think this subject is really in the forefront. And I think that's going to put a lot of pressure on people to relook at how we look at records and how we reward our athletic heroes.
Well, thanks, Mark. As always, appreciate talking with us. Appreciate it.
Always my pleasure.
This is Brent Rudemeller with Swimming World TV, reporting on swimming from around the world.